Hi, my name is Esteban Kelly, and I am a worker owner with AORTA, the Anti-Oppression Resource and Training Alliance. We are a worker co-op that works with other co-ops and community organizations that are working for social justice and a solidarity economy. We support them with conflict resolution and facilitation, education, and training. So I want to share a little bit about some of our best practices and tips for facilitators for conflict resolution processes in this module. And I'll start by just showing you a little screen share of tips for facilitators and participants in conflict resolution processes. The first is up here, just that you want to develop goals along the way. Sometimes we develop goals as we're doing intakes with people who are involved in a conflict resolution process before we meet up with them in person for the conflict resolution itself. If you're once you're inside a meeting with people, it's very helpful for you to actually list these goals visually for people to see, for you to refer to keep people grounded in the process. So you don't want the goals to be 45 long things. You want them to be appropriate for however long your conversation is going to be. I often say that if you're facilitating a process with several people, you want to have at least an hour set aside for each person involved in the process. If you have two people and you only have 45 minutes to have the conversation, that's not setting yourself up for success. You probably want to have at least 2 or 3 hours to be able to really have the spaciousness for people to be open up and be vulnerable, for people to work through blockages, frustration, to be able to hear each other, and sometimes to be able to have a couple rounds of going through people's perspectives on things so that you can meet these goals. It's also important for you as a facilitator or for anyone who's facilitating the process to not be too involved in the process. So if you have your co-workers in a small collective, or your best friend in the world, or your roommate and your boss, that might not be a process where you're most suitable as a conflict resolution facilitator. That's a moment to really reach out in a spirit of solidarity for someone else to come in and support your group, or for you to support other people. If you're heavily involved in the process, you really do want to take a bit of a step back. Also, as a facilitator, you want to make sure that you're taking care of all of your own needs. You can choose to facilitate as part of a team. You can have a backup facilitator. So anything that comes up, I mean, it might be that there's a different department within your workplace, but you're offering to facilitate a conflict resolution process, and that's fine. And as soon as something gets dicey, or if something starts to really hit close to home for you, you want to take care of yourself so that you can stop if you need to. When you're in the process itself, if you or anyone else in the room needs a break, it's important to really pause and do that if you need to. We do also say that that conflict resolution process can be done with any size group. If there are a lot of people involved, you might want to get a second facilitator along with you just to help managing the group dynamic. For groups that are 5, 6 people, I think it should be manageable for one person to facilitate. It's really up to you to have a sense of what you're up for, what your own capacity is, what your comfort level is in facilitating. We also like to say that people can communicate in a lot of different ways. And a tip for you as a participant or as a facilitator is to really take stock of people's body language. Your role as a facilitator is to notice those things and also to help them keep a watch on what their tone is, what their body language is. If somebody has got their arms folded, then that is an indication that they might not feel comfortable. They might still feel bottled up. If they are breathing regularly, if they have an open stance, things might be relaxing. It's perfectly normal to start a process and at the outset have people feeling a little more closed up or uncomfortable. And as the process moves forward, as they get more impassioned, they might be talking with their hands more, they might be more expressive with their bodies. All of that stuff is fine. You want to keep an eye on those things as a facilitator. I'm going to go back to screen share so you can follow along. Okay, so that will help you in keeping an eye on some of the power dynamics that are happening, and also to notice if there are disparities between the body language that you're seeing for the people in the room. If one person is feeling comfortable and empowered and someone else is shutting down, those are really good cues to you about what's going on and how to shift the process that may be happening. Including other people can be helpful, but it's important to really think about how you want to involve people in the process. If something is particularly traumatic, if you're dealing with stuff that gets at mental health or any kind of violence or abuse, having one of the participants needs to step out. You can have one of the facilitators leave with them and accompany them and make sure that they're feeling supported. And have somebody who can hang back with everyone who's left in the room and sort of manage tensions, de-escalate things, keep a calm perspective, maybe do some breathing. Finally, this skill of really paraphrasing and synthesizing is probably the #1 important thing for you to be doing anytime you're a facilitator, but especially in a conflict resolution process. You know, it's different than a business meeting where you might be more focused on timekeeping or specific objectives in an agenda. Here, you don't know what you're listening for, and so you really want to be paying attention to things and reflecting back to the group where you've been, what kinds of commonalities you've heard, restating things that someone said, so that might help them feel heard. You might be dealing with one group who are unable to, for whatever reason, unable to hear what one person's saying. Maybe because they feel like it's falling on deaf ears, because it's something that they hear all the time. You know, that person always complains about something, and so they're not really listening for the why behind it. Why are they always complaining about this thing? So that's your job, to be able to lend your voice and elevate and amplify people's voices, and also reflect back to people where you're at in the conversation itself, or zooming out what some of the broader dynamics are, either organizationally or within the dynamic that the people you're dealing with are, how those dynamics are playing out. So pointing out, your role in pointing out where there's alignment and agreement is key. That's going to be key toward actually coming toward resolution in a conflict resolution process, and really coming toward convergence rather than divergence and closure. So I'm going to close by showing you this little bit toward the end of the map in order to review people's goals and if there are timelines attached to it, and also listening for where people are volunteering or where there might be willingness and openness for people to be able to match what they're willing to do, what they're willing to offer or agree to with what other people's wants and needs are. Listening for those kinds of things are what's going to help you getting to closure and hopefully the end of your conflict resolution process. So that's all that I'm going to be sharing today about the overall tips. There's, of course, a whole boatload of lifelong skills that you're always going to be building and absorbing and learning and improving upon as a facilitator, as long as you create the feedback loops to be able to evaluate yourself and hear feedback from every time you facilitate. It helps to improve your approach and have a sense of where you can strengthen your skills and be more intentional in the support that you're offering, whether it's for a conflict resolution process or any other group facilitation dynamic. Thanks.